I get a lot of questions about paraphrasing and plagiarism. So basically, paraphrasing is when you take someone else's thoughts or ideas and then you place them in your own words. Let's take a look at an example. Here's a sentence from a source that contains information that I might want to put in a paper. The sentence reads, "The first jigsaw puzzles were created by a print shop owner named John Spilsbury in the late 1700s. Now, what I want to do is take all of the important information from that sentence and then put it in my own words. So I might create another sentence like this. Jigsaw puzzles date back to the 18th century and were first created by a person named John Spilsbury who owned a print shop. So here I've taken all of the relevant information from the author's sentence and I've placed it in my own words. But there's one more thing I need to do. Always remember, when you paraphrase, you still need to include a citation. You still need to let your reader know where you found your information. Now, you may wonder why I included a picture of a dinosaur. It's because the first project where I learned how to paraphrase was a dinosaur project in second grade. And this is the basic outline of what Mrs. Schroeder taught us to do. So the first thing you need to do is read the information and make sure that you understand the meaning. As a college student, you're going to read a lot of articles that are written by experts in the field. They use a lot of jargon. Take the time to make sure that you understand exactly what the author wrote. That might mean looking things up in the dictionary. That's okay. Asking for help. Don't be afraid to do that either. Once you know that you understand the meaning perfectly, you can take the information from the article and place it into your own words. Now, when I was in second grade, Mrs. Schroeder had a table with all of the dinosaur books. And we sat down and we read about our dinosaur. Mine was the Diplodocus. And then we walked across the classroom and we sat at a different table and we took notes. Now, as adults, I don't think you need to walk across the room to do this, but make sure that you're closing the book and then write down the sentence in your own words. The third step is to take your sentence and then compare it to the original. And you're looking for three things. You want to make sure that you included all of the important information, that everything that you wrote is correct and factual, and that your wording is unique. And most importantly, it is different from the wording that the author used. Now, it may be tempting to take a sentence like this one. We've already seen it. The first jigsaw puzzles were created by a print shop owner named John Spilsbury in the late 1700s, and then change a couple of the words. So for instance, let's say we take out created and we type made instead. And then we'll scratch out owner and type in proprietor. This is not an example of paraphrasing because, as you can see, the majority of the sentence is still the same as the source, as what Lee wrote in 1995. In paraphrasing, you take the information from a source and then you put it completely into your own words. So this is not an example of paraphrasing, it is an example of plagiarizing. So again, with paraphrasing, you take the information, you put it into your own words, you cite the source. Occasionally, it will be better to use a quotation instead of paraphrasing. So for instance, let's say you need to include in your paper a definition or refer to a unique term. So here's an example. It says, Arani refers to critical cognitive junctures in her work. So critical cognitive junctures is a term that the scientist created. In this case, you want to quote that, not try to paraphrase it. Another example is highly scientific wording. So here it says radiotherapy is sometimes used to treat subungual melanomas. This is a pretty short sentence, and there is some scientific language in there. So in this case, you may want to take a direct quotation instead of trying to paraphrase so that you don't lose the meaning. And perhaps you have a quotation like this one: I knew that my life was about to change. It's a powerful quotation, and if we tried to paraphrase it, we would lose some of the meaning and the impact. So in those cases, you may want to include the quotation instead of trying to paraphrase. Something important to remember about quotations is that you should use them sparingly. So if you take a look at this paper here, it looks pretty good, right? However, if we start highlighting all of the quotations in here, we're going to find that the writer didn't actually do too much writing. Instead, they took a lot of quotations from other sources, and then they kind of tied them together by writing a word or two. Again, the purpose of writing a paper is for you to write the paper. So it's okay to use quotations once in a while if you have to, but your entire paper should not be comprised of other people's words that you have put together with a phrase or two. And of course, you can always ask for help. You can make an appointment with me. We can meet on Zoom, in Claremont, in Keene, in Lebanon. Just let me know what's best for you. And you can also submit your paper to the RVCC Writing Lab. It's on Canvas, and information about that is on the tutoring website, or you can contact me as well. The tutor will go through and spend an hour looking over your paper, and then you will receive feedback about your paper within 2 business days.